Okay, as you can see, I've widened the frame just a little bit and brought out a couple of extra guns. I'm not a big fan of doing that, guys. I really am not, and I'm going to get rid of them as soon as I can. But I thought it'd be a good idea to have a little bit of a visual representation of some of the different models here because of some of the features that they've done with the 45. So we're going to start with the 19X for just a moment or two, just to give you an idea. And of course, I normally run through the spec numbers and all that, but I'm not going to do it this time. I think by now we're pretty familiar with the 19X, and so the 45 does the exact same thing. Carries forward that 19 slide with the 17 frame. Try and line these guys up as best I can, and they are basically identical. So just to give you an idea of the size, that sort of thing, hopefully that helps a little bit. And then we're going to jump right into the features because, again, there are some combinations of some of these different guns into the 45. Now, in terms of the grip frame texture right here, we carried forward our Gen 4 and Gen 5 texture, and I'm a fan of this. I think it does the right combination of grippy enough without so over textured that it's going to beat you up or beat your clothes up or anything like that, but the gun stays very planted in there, so I like that grip texture quite a bit. Now, it does come with some different back straps just like your Gen 4s, Gen 5, so there's a little bit of modularity there as well. So if you've got bigger hands, that sort of thing, you can make the appropriate adjustments. Now, one feature that they carried forward from the Gen 5s rather than the 19X is actually the magwell, and I like this. I think it's a good feature. Now, I know some people say that it's going to lead to more printing. Well, that perhaps is a little bit true, but I like the idea of just having a little bit more help being able to throw in a new magazine if you need to, and I think it's actually kind of a cool look as well. One thing that is absent, however, from the 45, just to give you guys an idea, is this little cutout on the Gen 5. This is a Gen 5 19, and this cutout was one of the few gripes I have of the Gen 5s. It's not that big of a deal, but you can feel it when you're shooting a little bit. It's not painful or anything, but I'm not a fan. I know it was there to help strip the magazine. More on that in a moment, but I just wasn't a fan. So instead, they closed it up, and so I was very glad to see that. I like that quite a bit, but what they didn't do was carry forward the lip that's on the 19X. I'm going to show you that, and we're going to nerd out for a moment or two. Of course, the 45 comes with 3 17-round magazines, but with these magazines, and it's the other gripe I have with the Gen 5s. You guys will notice that the 45 magazine, same as the Gen 5s on the left, is a little bit longer than the older 17 magazines, which is what this is right here. So it's got a longer lip on it, and again, that's part of that being able to strip out the magazines for malfunction. So I get the idea behind it, but the problem is with the 19X, which carries the 17 magazine as well, you'll notice that it won't fully seat in there, and that is a big gripe of mine. I think for the modern Glocks, they should all be interchangeable, so they can. And so basically what I do with all my Gen 5 magazines, I actually go back to the old base plates on that. So I either do the old base plates or I do these +2s right here. That just makes more sense for me, and it eliminates the confusion of magazines. All right, I've gotten rid of the other guns and brought the camera in just a little bit closer to talk about some of the controls. Now, in terms of your magazine release, it is just the same as it ever was with Glocks right here. It is reversible, although not ambi out of the box. And it's the Gen 4, Gen 5 style, a little bit bigger button right there, and I like it. It does just exactly what it needs to do, and it's a good placement and all that kind of good stuff. And then we've got our slide lock slide release, which is ambi out of the box. So for all of you left-hand shooters, this is definitely a lot more friendly for you. So I think a lot of people were really excited to see that introduced in the Gen 5. Now, in terms of takedown, it does have your standard Glock tabs as you would expect. You pull the trigger, pull the slide back about 1/8 of an inch, and then it pops right off. I'm not going to do it for this video because we've seen it over and over and over again. So to save time, we'll just move on. And then we do have our accessory rail for tiny ninjas, chainsaws, lasers, all that kind of good stuff. So just exactly what you would expect. And then there is a little bit of texture on the front of the trigger guard. So for those of you who want to put your finger there, and if that's your style, that's there for you to use. I really think that this is the right combination of features for the frame, and I really like what they've done with it. In terms of the slide, the 45 carries forward the Gen 4 FS model forward serrations or front serrations, and I was really glad to see them do that. I was a big fan of the serration.